the importance of attachment to your parents, how the quality of that really influences how you form a relationship and whether you reproduce.
What do you mean?
Okay, if you're shy, for example, it's going to be a bit difficult going up to someone saying, can we go out? Can we do this? Can we do that? And you have to get a few knockbacks to gain the confidence. Some people are very, very confident. So attachment theory came out of the Second World War by a guy called Bowlby. And he noticed that the attachment to the mother was striking in the behavior of the infant. So they did some experiments and they found out the secure attachment, and this was done by a stranger would be in the room with the baby, this toddler, and mother. Mother would leave the room. Depending on the baby's behavior, that would indicate the strength of the attachment and the bond and their relationship with the mother. And that bond, that relationship becomes an inner working model, an internalized model of how you relate later on. So if you're okay with a stranger, yeah, you're maybe a bit upset to begin with, but then you're okay. But if you're never okay with the stranger, you're always going to be a bit anxious, a bit avoidant, maybe. And then mum comes back in the room, you ignore her. It's generally mums, but it could be any significant parent person in that. And that then becomes your working model. And some of the research I did with John Barry, we found out anxious attachment was a predictor of childlessness in later life, because you're a bit anxious. Is this person going to like me? Am I risking things? Am I being vulnerable here? Am I exposing myself? And that vulnerability is a very big thing for men and society. There's a political scientist in America called a lovely woman. She really is. Cynthia Daniels. There we go. She wrote a lovely book. And she said society really needs to recognize male vulnerability. And actually, we can't have this idea that men are invulnerable. If we built that in, it'd be a lot better for men and women, that men would feel, okay, say, actually, I'm vulnerable here. The risk is I'll be exposed. People think badly of me. I'll be discriminated against and stigmatized. And that's a very big thing for men, and why men sometimes act like they do. It's fight or flight. There's not that nuance in between. Okay, so how's that happened? How we brought up. If you look on Facebook, and I know you guys don't really do Facebook, but for old people like me, we do. But you can look around and you see when a baby is called My Little Man. Okay. And if that's at 18 months, something like that, you're calling a baby a man. Okay. That's going to get embedded in him all the way through his very formative life, that I'm a man. And what does that mean? Does that mean I'm hard, I'm rational, I'm unemotional, I won't let myself be seen to be vulnerable? A girl of the same age, not my little woman, my little princess. And I've spoken to many older women who say, I'm leading a company and doing great things, but I'm still, to my father, my little princess. So this is built in. So for men, why they act, it's almost like there's a concrete block put here, okay? And this is built up during the formative years. And underneath is all those emotions that they're trying to contain. And they don't want to be exposed to that. They don't want to be seen to be weak and vulnerable by doing that. Whereas for girls being brought up, generally brought up to be much more expressive, be in the moment, say what they feel, things like that. For boys, it's much more be out there, be objective, be doing that. And so when it comes to building relationships, that inner working model comes again. And I would say I'm anxiously attached because I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. being the seventh youngest, I had a cascade of parents. I'm actually biological parents, but then every older brother or sister was a parent at a time. And older brothers and sisters, they work for their own benefits. And if they've got a naive, innocent there, they'll use them.
Okay. Well, we'll stay on the little man point.
Yeah.
I find that so interesting. And, there's this idea that you should train up your kids. There are things like, I can't even remember what it's called now, but you let them cry away in a room, sleep training.
Yes.
You let them cry and work their issues out themselves and be a strong, high agency individual aged 18 months. And then they're going to turn out to be strong. But it's the opposite. If your parents actually look after you without coddling you, but show you affection, you're most of the time going to grow up, if you've got a stable household, to actually do hard things and have high agency because you're not anxiously attached. So people think that they can brute force their kids into being these high achievers, but it's just not the case. It's actually the inverse. They need to look after them. I want to stick on these high predictors of childlessness and look at maybe away from the sort of psychosocial stuff, some of the biological stuff. What are some of those predictors for being a man and childless?
A man and childless, biologically, class is a thing. Genetics is a thing. Your workplace. Sperm is in production from puberty onwards. Constantly in production, where women are born with their reservoir of eggs. They're there. And because of that, sperm is susceptible to the environment. So the environment you're in and what you put in your body affects your sperm, affects it very, very quickly because it's quite well into the bloodstream. So, for example, people who go to the gym and use steroids, steroids have a massive impact on the quality of your sperm.
Talk to me more about that.
Okay, I'm not an expert on sperm, but my colleague Michael Carroll is an expert and he's brilliant on sperm, so if you want to get him on. But steroids have been proved to affect your fertility in a negative way. So while you look buff and therefore, you look like a good, I guess, selection effect male, fulfilling all the criteria that's around at the moment, actually it's undermining you with your fertility. I don't know the chemical things, but I do know the science does say that. Absolutely. It does say that, yeah.
Right. So you've got these men that want to be high status, they want to get selected, but then when they get selected, they can't act upon that selection and actually have kids one day. They're going to be selected maybe in their early 20s and they're looking buff. But then long term, they're not going to have any success in mating, if we want to use evolutionary language, which they may want to do.